Welcome to everyone that's joining tonight. My name's Adam Ty from the club's media team. And tonight I'm joined by two promotion-winning captains. First up, we've got Gordon Greer, who lifted the League One title back in 2011 and also led the Seagulls out in the first historic game at the Amex. And we are then joined by Gordon's successor, Bruno, as known as El Capitan, who led the club to promotion to the Premier League. Something Gordon was one goal away from doing himself, so we'll come on to that. And also Bruno, obviously first ever skipper for the club in the Premier League, led us twice to safety before hanging up his boots with that emotional farewell against Manchester City. So gents, thank you very much for joining us. Gordon, I'm going to ask you a few questions and Bruno ask you a few as well. And then I can see a couple of you have already got your hand up. It's from the fan side of thing. All you need to do is press the raised hand icon and then I will come to you and you can ask your questions. But before I throw over to you to ask your probably far better and more interesting questions, Gordon, I'll start by asking you about the 2011 title winning season. Where does that rank in terms of achievements in your career, and is it the best season of your career?
I wouldn't say it was the best season just purely because it was League One, but as far as an enjoyable season goes, it was right up there. The players that we had within that team it was a great set of lads. Everybody got on really well, and it was a laugh. The manager at the time was obviously Gus Poyet, and he had a good staff, and it was just a really enjoyable season. We played some great stuff. So achievements-wise, I wouldn't say it's the best achievement, but it was one of the most enjoyable seasons that I had playing football because it was a great set of lads.
Now, what you did do is you clinched the title that season, something that Bruno obviously failed to do 2017.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, Bruno, does that bother you that we didn't win the title that year, or does the promotion, is that all that matters?
It did, to be honest, especially the way that happened. You know what I mean? We conceded a goal like 2 minutes to go. And it was, especially being against Newcastle as well. But I think the main aim, it was done and achieved. And that was the main thing for us. But, after that moment, it was okay. You know what I mean? You deal with that.
I believe a little trip to Vegas probably eased the pain.
Helped quite a lot.
If you're asking if they would swap positions, I would have swapped Bruno's captaincy for mine, that's for sure.
Gordon, your final season, as I touched on, we were agonisingly close to promotion the year before. When you look back at that season, it was, I think Tony Bloom still maybe even says now that's his favourite season, even though we didn't go up. So how do you look back at that season? Are you fond memories, or does the way that it finished spoil it? And obviously that was your last game for us as well against Sheffield Wednesday.
To be honest with you, I look back on that season, it was a strange season. I mean, there was I played the first half of the season, I think, and it was that season where we went sort of unbeaten for a long time, but we weren't winning games. We were sort of drawing games and 0-0 and 1-1. And then in the January, I'm sure that's when we signed. Is that the season we signed Knockout?
Yeah.
Aye. So Anthony came in January, and we just started putting teams away, and I wasn't part of the second half of the season because I was injured. So it was great that the lads were playing so well, and but from a selfish point of view, I just wanted to be playing football, and obviously I was running at the end of my contract as well. So it was I had a feeling that I probably wouldn't be there the season after if we got promoted, but I felt like I might have still been there if we never. So, but I just wanted my ultimate goal for when I was at Brighton was to try and get to the Premier League, and unfortunately that season we didn't make it, and it really felt like that was my last chance because obviously I left the club the next day or the day after the playoff semi-final.
Looking at the stats of that game, am I right in that you came off in that second leg around the 77th, 78th minute.
Yep.
So that, to me, a bit like when Bruno came off against Man City, seems like maybe that was planned as a so they could say farewell.
No, I actually don't think it was, because we never even knew. I never even knew if I was staying or going. So
right.
the club hadn't told us that I wasn't going to be part of the team the season after. But we were chasing goals, so I think the manager just sort of wanted to get some more strikers on the pitch and see if we could grab a late goal. So I came off.
I would have surely keeping you on, because I think you scored at least 3 times.
I scored. I remember one day in training I scored a couple of goals. That was a great day.
You did get a few. I think it's 5, maybe. I think it is 5.
I scored a few goals, but I wasn't great in the attacking penalty box at all. I was sort of there to sort of create space and block runners for other people to go and try and score, but it wasn't a strength of mine in the attacking area, that's for sure.
So although you didn't, as you say, you didn't know, when you were walking off, as you're being subbed in that game, is there any part of your mind thinking this could be it?
Not within the game, I must say. I was just focused on the game, so I was just wanting us to score. So when I came off, I was just desperate for us to get a goal. Gradually, as time goes on within the game, and it became an uphill battle really, and we weren't going to go up. Then I started to feel like this is probably my last. It wasn't so much that I felt I was leaving the club either. I just knew it was probably one of my last chance to get there, that I knew I was going to be part of it. So it was a bit of a failure hit me straight in the forehead about 90 odd minutes in that game.
Bruno, because obviously you were part of the squad. When did you find out that Gordon was leaving? How surprised were you? And you've touched on it before, but obviously you've said people like Gordon still played a huge part in that 2016-17 season, although they weren't part of the squad.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I always said players like Gordon, Calde, they left the same time. A lot of players that they were fighting for so many years, 3 playoffs to get into the Premier League. I think they've been a massive part of that achievement. And for me, it was like, even when we got promoted, of course, we were so happy, but to don't have them there. Gordon was one of the first players that when we lost that game against Sheffield, or when we didn't get through, he came to me because I was quite devastated, to be honest. And he was trying to pick me up. It was really good from him. And he's been always, a really good captain. And that's why for me it was, sad to don't see players like him and Calde, for example, to achieve that.
When did you know you were going to be handed the armband? And did you kind of expect it? Because I think you had actually been wearing the armband a little bit already that season, hadn't you?
Yeah, because when, as Gigi said, when he was injured, Chris gave me the armband, and of course it was, a big responsibility. I just seen Gigi how he was doing it, and of course after pre-season, Chris spoke to me and he just asked me, or said that he wanted me to be the captain, and it was of course as you said, it wasn't a big surprise because I was wearing it during the season before, but of course, always been named as a captain. I know it's a really big important thing here in England, and for me, it was I was so happy.
I'll ask you from your point of view first, Bruno, then I'll come to you, Gordon. How difficult is it for you, Bruno, when you are acting captain, but the actual captain is still there but injured? Is there a crossover? Do you feel like you don't want to step on his toes, or?
No, I think it's quite a natural thing. It's not a big thing, and we always at the end of the day, what you want leaders inside the changing room, as many as you can have, and you don't want just one player talking to everyone. You want players getting involved in decisions, getting involved with their emotions, with everything. And I think as a captain, one of the one of our aims, it always was like try to get as many leaders, on the pitch. But I think we had always like Gigi and myself, we always had a really natural, like thing when he was wearing it or I was wearing it.
And Gordon, it's up to you to cause some sparks here. So what you're going to now say is that you absolutely hated Bruno wearing the armband. You couldn't wait to rip it off his arm.
Let's see.
How was it really for you, though?
No, well, to be fair, Bruno just said it there. I mean, it's obviously, first and foremost, it's a massive honour to have the captain's armband, but it's not one person. There's different people that act in different ways that really benefit for the team. So the way that I was as a captain was different to the way that Bruno was and the way that Crofty was or whoever else has been captain for Brighton. It's, we've all got different ways, but the more people you've got as natural leaders, the better. It is for the squad. And it keeps everybody sort of gelled because you've got more than one voice and people can speak to more than one person. And ultimately, your job as a captain is to try and relay the manager's thoughts and what he wants to do on a Saturday. And during the week, you're trying to just keep the lads together and upbeat. So the more people you've got in the dressing room like that, the better. Because at the end of the day, injuries happen in sport. Unfortunately, it's one of these things. It's a difficult time for players to deal with. But you have injuries. You'll have periods where your family life's not great. So you need everybody around you and helping you, and that's why it's great for experience. Like for me anyway, like I had Bruno in the dressing room, I had Caldy, Crofty, all good lads that were people that I would speak to a lot.
And you kind of mentioned it there, you do get different types of captains. So what similarity do you both have? And also what major difference do you two have as captains?
I think from my point of view, we both led by example. We were older, should I say, at the time, and we were first in the physio room, doing prehab. We were doing extra weights. We were looking after our bodies. We were trying to do the right things to show the younger players what it was like to be a senior professional. But the main difference, in my opinion, was just that I was a bit of a maniac at times and Bruno wasn't.
Sometimes. I was sometimes as well.
So, but I think the main thing is for the young players to respect you, which both of us had, and also that you sort of led by example, because the main thing is that you're out there, you're giving 100%, whether you're playing good, bad or indifferent. The main thing is that you're out there giving your all and you're leading by example.
Yeah, I'm agree with him. I think the only difference, I lost my head sometimes, in training session as well. You know what I mean? But the only difference, I would say, in England or in UK, it's quite common. The captains, they quite talk a lot after the game. You know what I mean? It's they quite vocal, and I wasn't, because I never grew up like that. You know what I mean? I wasn't like that. And I think that would be maybe the only difference that we had. And I think, the boys, I think they had to adapt to myself, because I wasn't, that vocal after the games, because it's like different styles, you know what I mean? But the rest, I think we were really similar, it's just like he said, but just trying to take advantage of our experience because we were older and trying to help other players.
I could tarnish your nice guy image here, Bruno, because I've watched so much footage of you shouting at referees. You are definitely not Mr. Nice on the pitch.
Nope, no chance.
Talking about losing your head, did you get sent off in your first game for us, Gordon?
Yeah. I'm not proud of that, but it's.
I didn't know that.
What was it for?
I sort of lashed out.
Wrong decision for sure. Wrong decision for sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, the referee was to blame for that, so it's nothing to do with me. And the lad deserved it, so it's one of these things.
Yeah, he doesn't sound very sorry, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
So obviously we're all aware that Bruno is back at the club and coaching in the first team. I think a few may know, but for those that don't, Gordon, you are actually back in the fold. You're in the all-staff briefing making fun of my beard via text the other day. So what is your job back at the club?
So I'm a part of the scouting department now. So my role is essentially to find sort of new players that could come into the club and hopefully help the current squad.
Is that particularly challenging at the moment, obviously with the current situation?
Well, it is, because we don't know the situation, how the club's going to be in, what the club's going to be like when this all sort of ends and the season ends. I don't think anybody knows how it's going to end. So at the moment, we're just doing the work behind the scenes, and we're busy trying to find players that we could potentially look at. But ultimately, it'll be down to the way the club want to move forward and how the finances are and all that come the end of the season.
So the final question from me before we open up to fans. You've both led a very similar group of players. I'd like to know which player was the easiest you found to deal with, the one that never answered you back, never a problem.
Well, I must say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on here with Bruno, but the one thing that I must say about Bruno is that when I was the captain and I would say something, he had my back. He may or may not sort of speak to me in quiet and say, listen, what about this, what about that? But he backed me, and that's all I could ask for. There was a few players that I had that relationship with where, I'd never get a problem from them. They were great trainers. They were in time. They were doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing. And Bruno was one of them. So that was somebody that I never had a minute's problem with at all.
He's lying properly. I mean, it's like, to be honest, like Gigi's been saying as well, it's like we had such a good group of boys. And for example, for me, like, as he said, like, with myself, for me, it was so easy because I was following Gigi, because everything that he was saying, he made sense, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it was so easy to follow. But we had such a good, I don't know, for example, Liam Rosinha as well, for example, like he loved football and he can ask you questions, but he was always quite a positive guy. And I really love training with him as well.
Hi, Gordon. Hi, Bruno. Thanks for all that you did for the club. Really enjoyed watching you play. I've got a couple of questions. The biggest influences on your career, and also the best player that you played with in your time at Brighton.
Well, I'll go first on that. So obviously, like, growing up, the biggest influence on your career as a child is your father and your dad. So for me, I used to go and watch my dad play football and go along and play alongside him. But I suppose that was the main reason that I got into football as a child. But then growing up, I must say that, I found it difficult with the skill set that I had to sort of play the lower leagues. I wasn't a standout performer, let's just say, but when I came to Brighton, Gus Poyet was a very good manager, and he played a style of football that just suited me. And when I look back on my career, that was a sort of turning point for me to sort of kick on. So I must thank, obviously, the club for bringing me here, but Gus was a massive influence on my career from that point onwards, and it was actually a pleasure to play for the club. Under Gus, we played some great football.
Best player that you played with in your time here?
I think I'll be very shocked if you've not heard this before, but by far the best player that played for Brighton when I was there was Vicente.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The guy was an absolute joke of a footballer. It was a bit. I felt sorry for him in a way, because he came here and he had a good network of Spanish-speaking players around him, but he just struggled with injuries. And yeah. I love to have. I mean, Bruno obviously played with him when he was a bit younger, but I'd love to have seen him sort of have a few months where he was playing regularly, because he was an absolute. He was such a fantastic footballer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like more or less exactly the same. I mean, I would say my dad, of course, it's that relationship that you build, with your dad. when I was going as well to his games. And after just going with you, taking you every single training session or every single game, it's like the most influence person in the football. And of course after his best player I've played here at Brighton has been Vicente. I think as well I played with him at Valencia, and of course it's like I saw him a little bit in a better period, but I think it's just a joke. He was outstanding with his balance, his quality, everything. He was the best player.
I was listening to your interview the other day, Gordon, and you were talking about Bridcut, and it got me thinking about the defensive centre midfield position. And it's a position that I think is hard to play, and often you find fans may get on the back of the player in that position. I'm thinking a bit about Dale Stephens, and obviously showing my age, way back when Tony Grealish played that position. So what is it that you, as a coach or a scout or as a player and the manager, see in a player in that position that maybe a lot of fans miss?
I think, from my point of view with Liam Bridcut, I think his relationship with the supporters when he left the club was a wee bit tarnished, because I think he was trying to force his way out, and I don't think the fans really appreciated it after the chance that he was given. But as far as a footballer was concerned, it was fantastic for me. I tried to explain it when I was speaking the other day, that as a defender, the way that we played anyway with the two high fullbacks, the sitting midfielder was so important for us as protection. So when you need somebody to go out wide, if the fullback's caught up the field, Liam done that. But if you didn't need him there, he wasn't there. But on the other side, when we had the ball, I used to always find it really easy to pass him the ball. He just made good angles. He was in the right place at the right time, and it made my job as a centre back so much easier. Whereas I've played with players before and after that, you've got the ball and you're under pressure and they don't move, or they're in the wrong position and you end up kicking it long, and then you look bad yourself. Whereas he just made me look very good. So I love the wee guy.
You were pretty good, Gordon.
But honestly, the players, people underestimate the players that you play with. Obviously everybody's got different skill sets, and as I said, I was speaking earlier that I wasn't the most aggressive centre back in the attacking box or anything, but my skill set was trying to get on the ball, and I was brave in possession. And there's one thing being brave in possession, but there's another thing having someone to pass the ball to. And thankfully for me, over my time at Brighton, I was blessed with good players to play alongside that wanted the ball, and they gave good angles, and it made my job a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, I think yes, Gigi is right. Those type of players, those sitters, when you're watching the game, as a fan, you cannot focus on one player, and you will see more the players that they technically better, or they really aggressive, and those players that they really clever, always being in the right position, always taking the right decisions. You cannot see them a lot, and then as a fans, it's so difficult to value them, to give the real value. But as a coaches, we value them, because after the games we can watch a game once, twice, and we can see, as Gigi is saying, how good angles they're giving, how much they're running. There are so many small things that we look at that it make them really important for us. And as well, is a player that it's going to be for them really important who they've got around. Because if you are really deep as a midfielder, when you get the ball and you turn, maybe you've got one option up top, maybe you've got the striker. But if you are an offensive team, like Liam Bridcut was at that time, when he got the ball, he had so many options, because he had the fullback sky, he had tens into the space. I think it's really tricky to value centre midfielders, and I think it's a really good question.
And before we go to the next question, actually, one has been put in the chat. Unfortunately, they didn't say their name, but the question was, what was each of your favourite game to play in? Go on, then, Bruno.
Yours?
Yeah, for me, of course, it will be between two, and it's like, of course, Wigan when we got Wigan at home when we got promoted. But for me, I don't know why, like it feels like really special when we beat Man U at last home game in our first Premier League season. We beat Man U, and I don't know. I think it was because it was Friday night. Like the atmosphere was amazing, and we stay up. I think it was the best game for me.
I've struggled with this question. I've been asked this question quite a lot, but I've had games that sort of meant a lot to me, like looking back. But at the time, I was sort of, it was just another game. But I think one of the games that stands out for me as far as like the emotions after the game was the Nottingham Forest game when Leo scored the last minute header. It was just it was a really tough season, that season for us. There was loads of changes behind the scenes, and it was we weren't in the best shape as a team to go and win the league, but it was a great achievement to get the playoffs, and it was a great feeling after that game. And also, the other one was the Doncaster game. It was the first game at the Amex where I led the team out, and that was a fantastic day for us as well. So I've got a few that stand out.
Two questions, or one is really a statement. It's good to see football beginning to come back early stages, and let's hope that things continue without problems. Really a question about goals and movements that you've been involved with, where there's been a really good team move and you've been part of it and there's a goal scored. For example, Gordon, I remember we were playing Newcastle in the Cup and you played a long ball down from right to left. Wayne Bridge just got to it before it went over the goal line, pulled it back to Orlando, one touch, second touch in the back of the net. Yeah. So that is an illustration. For each of you, which was the most memorable team move that ended up with a goal that you were involved in?
To be honest, I don't really remember many, I'll be honest with you. I don't remember that many at all. Because of the position that I played, you're sort of alone the build-up, but there was... I genuinely cannot remember any time that I've been that's stuck in my head where I've been part. I mean, that you've touched on the Newcastle goal with Andrea scoring. There's been goals that I've been part of where I've sort of knocked the ball down in the box or had something to do with it. But I'll be honest with you, there's nothing that really stands out for me that I can remember. To be honest with you.
Well, that one stood out for me anyway. Yeah. So keep that memory.
I know. I forgot about that, so thanks very much for bringing it up. Forgot all about it.
But as a defender, it's always difficult, but if you think, I mean, Gordon, like one of his best skills, it was like building up. It was amazing how he could pick up passes between lines. And that's, for example, me. I remember one that it was even and I think it was almost starting from like Gigi and maybe to me, and it was against Leicester at home when we beat Leicester in that season that they went up. But it's like so difficult to pick up something like that, especially as a defenders. But yeah, we had a really good build-ups at the same time, to be honest.
Thank you both. Anyway,
thank you.
And fingers crossed for the rest of the season. Anyway,
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It's not another question in the chat. It's not actually a question. It basically just complimenting your hair, Gordon, and asking if you have any recommendations. That question that didn't come to you though, Bruno, for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
This is what retirement does to you, Adam. This is no stress.
I've been doing this a week. No one's complimented my bouffon, so I'm a bit upset by that. Jack Phillips is next. Away you go, Jack.
Hiya, guys. I hope you're all right. Both of you joined the club in sort of surprising circumstances. I know, Gordon, you were high-flying captain at Swindon with Charlie Austin, and you were in the playoffs in your final season, and Bruno coming from Valencia to the Albion. Why did you choose Brighton?
Well, for me, I touched on it a bit earlier that throughout my career, like, the skill set that I hadn't found a manager that really wanted to pass the ball. And, you know, with the skill set I had, it wasn't easy to stand out in League One if you're like just heading, kicking the ball and clearing lines and organising. So for the opportunity to come up with Gus Poyet, where he was really adamant that he was going to get on the ball at the back and he was going to build up play and it was going to be like a sort of possession-based team, I just felt that that's what I was waiting for, you know, 10, 11 years. I just waited for that opportunity. So regardless of league position and all that, it was the opportunity that I had at that time. I just felt that I couldn't give up on it. And obviously, the club, I didn't realise the size of the club. If I'm being totally honest, I came to the Withdean and played a few games, you know, and it wasn't great. So I didn't realise the fan base and the sort of. I knew the stadium was getting built, but I didn't even realise the stadium was going to be as good as it was. So it was all a bit of a pleasant surprise for me when I came here, and we started playing some great football. We moved to the Amex, and it was just a perfect timing, and it was a perfect team for me.
Yeah, for me it's more or less the same. You know, it's. I was looking for experience in England because I always thought like I wanted to play in England, and I was 31, and you know, I knew a little bit about the club because Vicente was playing here and we played together at Valencia. But it's difficult to realize about the size of the, you know, I mean, the club and the fan base. But he spoke really well about, you know, everyone here, and it was quite an easy decision. And especially speaking after with Gus Poyet, who convinced me so quick as well.
I have a couple of questions on chat. I'll just do one for now. One of them is your kind of standard job application question. So it's, where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time? Whoever wants to go first there.
Wow. 5 years' time?
Yeah.
I don't have a clue. To be honest, I don't know. I'm not even thinking. To be honest, myself right now, as a part of the coaching stuff, I'm just thinking to try to learn every day and improve, and let's see where this new path takes me. But I don't know. Like, I think as a footballer, it's always, you know what I mean, like being in that life, it's really difficult to plan something that ahead. Or at least for myself, I think Gordo maybe will say the same, you know, and he's been moving even more than myself lately. But it's so difficult to plan something because it's a really changing times and changing world.
Yeah, I mean, I need to agree with what Bruno says. I mean, I think when I look 5 years down the line from the position I'm in at the moment, I would hope to be still involved with football, and I'd like to be involved with you know, the club, doing whatever I do and loving what I'm doing. At the moment, I'm part of the scouting network, and I'm really enjoying it. So if I look like that, I want to learn as much as I can about that, and sort of and be as much help and use to the staff and the club as I can be. So when you come out, I mean, if you asked me this as a player, I could have gave you a much better answer. But when you come out of football from a player into a new thing, we're sort of like apprentices now. Even though we're a wee bit older, we're sort of starting a new career, and we're learning, and we're trying to figure it out for ourselves as well. Sometimes, I mean, it's not easy. So it's quite a difficult question for me to answer based on the fact that I'm really at the infancy of what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to learn as much as I can.
Thanks, guys. Before Russell, I just want to touch on that because you said it's difficult after you hang up your boots. What about financially? I know obviously if you make good money during, you should hopefully have some squirreled away, but your income will obviously drop dramatically after. How do you cope with that drastic change in your life? I
think you can't change, you know, like you can't really cope with that, because at the end of the day, you've went from being a professional footballer, earning good money and having a certain lifestyle, to having no income. I was always a bit of a forward thinker, if you like, and I've set up a couple of things when I was younger because I was always worried about that day coming, and I was feeling like, you know, I never played at the top level and got the money that some of these players have received, and I'm not saying that I never didn't do well, but I was always worried about life after football. I've got a family and a house and, you know, responsibilities, so I set up a business when I was actually at Brighton that it's just been bubbling away in the background, and but I suppose, and I'm not extravagant, so there's different people out there that are very extravagant with what they do and whatnot. So it's a really good question, but everybody's different, and you see, I think there's a stat out there that after you stop playing football, like 1 in 3 ex-professionals either get divorced, bankrupt, or so it's quite hard to deal with the fact that you're no longer a footballer. It's not about the money as such. It's more about the fact that, you know, you've had a belonging for so long, and then all of a sudden you're not a footballer anymore. You feel a wee bit lost at times.
Yeah, it's of course it's not easy, because how difficult is to have one passion in your life, like to find another one. But at the same time, I think it's like quite different, like how you get retired. You know what I mean? Like how you retired. You know, it's really important if it's in your terms, if it's not on your terms, if it's like you end up playing or you don't end up playing, if it's an injury or it's not an injury, and of course, like money wise, of course, it's a big thing. You know, I mean, it's at the end of the day, Gigi and myself, because we always been aware of like what's gonna happen after. We've been planning a little bit, and we've been thinking, we've been saving money, and you know what I mean, like the most important as well is like how you're spending your money, like how your lifestyle, how expensive it is, you know what I mean, and I think we've been dealing well with that. But of course, that goes related with your education, and I think Gigi and myself, we've been really lucky with that, but other people, they're not as lucky as we are, and it's difficult for them to deal with those situations.
Hello, guys. Question for each of you. For Bruno, first of all, growing up, especially in my teens in Worthing, I met and got friends with a lot of Spanish people, lovely people, really enjoyed their company. One of the main complaints they did have about Worthing, they did like it, but was the weather. I just wondered, for you coming in from Spain, aside from the weather, what were your greatest challenges in the transition from Spanish to English football? And for Gordon, seeing this influx of Spanish players and later Spanish-speaking players of other nations, what sort of influence do you think they had? How did the influence impact itself upon the team, in your opinion?
I mean, it was difficult. It was challenging. It was challenging. The weather was one, because as you said, but the weather was one. So. I mean, I came 2012. There was the wettest summer in the last 40 years in UK. I mean, it was, but because in Spain it was always said that in UK it's always raining. That's what we thought. Then it was okay for us. You know, I mean, okay, it's raining. But the language was, you know, I mean, the patience that Gigi and other players they had with myself. Seriously, I came here not even speaking any English, and they were always trying to help me. You know, I mean, they were so helpful. And I think it's more the language. You know, I mean, football-wise, it was so easy because football is there is just one language, and when you play football, everyone understands each other. But language-wise, it was quite challenging.
Not so going to the impact that the players had coming in. So when I first signed at the club, obviously the manager was Spanish speaking, and he had a Spanish career as well. The assistant spoke a foreign language, so they've got a sort of foreign mentality, if you like. So I think it was quite easy for the foreign players to come in and adapt. But the good thing is that we had like a few of the same speaking, so we had a few Spanish speaking players at the time, and it was great for them because obviously they were close. Regarding the impact on the squad, I just think that, you know, in the UK, like, we train 110% every day, and I think to look at the Spanish players, if you like, coming in that are more technical and far better footballers, if you like, than us. They've got more skills, and it sort of puts things into perspective a wee bit. But I think that side of it was hard for them when they first came over, to see how hard we trained, and the intensity we trained at. We'd be kicking lumps out each other and training every day, and demanding that we mark and track runners and all that, where they're not used to that. But for us, looking at these players, as I said, they were by far, if you like, better footballers than us. But it was just great to have them part of the squad, because they offered so much with their talents that I suppose that the normal sort of British players not got.
And how did they get on with your accent, Gordon?
Well, I think I played with Bruno for 6 years, and he only started to understand me in the last 6 weeks. So
No. It was really good, really good. He tried really hard, to be honest. It was really good.
Believe it or not, this is my posh accent I'm putting on. So if any of you can't understand me, I've got no chance.
Thanks very much.
Well,
Thanks very much. Bruno actually said to me before that he could understand Gordon, which meant he could understand anyone.
I understand. Like they always ask me though, like, did you understand Gigi? And I said yes. I don't know, because I think what was with the player that I was talking the most, I think I got used to. And we had a physio as well. He was Scottish as well, and I was talking a lot. And I think I got used to the Scottish accent. And it was quite easy to understand.
We've got 4 more video questions, and then there's a couple in the chat that we'll do at the end. So, Graham, you're up next.
To Gordon, we were on the same flight as you over to Portugal for the second year, or it might have been the third year you'd been over there. My mate was sitting next to you, called Alan, and he comes from Mary Hill, which I'm sure you're familiar with in Glasgow.
Yeah.
My question is, do you still eat jelly snakes? Because you gave him one. I don't know if you remember it, but
I'll be honest with you. The jelly sweets and all that, you only really get them when we're travelling. So Alan was very lucky to get any sweets off me.
I didn't get one.
You should think yourself lucky, because I'll tell you what, I don't share my sweets with anybody. I only gave him one because he's been Mary Hill.
He didn't get an elbow.
No, he never got an elbow, mate. He never got an elbow.
I have to say, you look very good for your, for a retired footballer. You're looking, as though you could still play.
I wish I could, I'll tell you. I wish I could. But unfortunately, as you get older, your body starts to give up on you. So I just found that fitness-wise, I was okay, but I just couldn't last the season for fitness. So it's unfortunate, but it happens to everybody. And I try and keep myself as fit as possible now.
Yeah, I didn't realise you were back at the Albion doing scouting. Good luck to you.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and for Bruno, I'd just like to thank you for ringing me up. I'm over 70. You were one of the guys that were on the phone, and I was one that you rang up, and we had a good conversation.
We had a good one, yeah.
I thought you'd like to see what I look like.
Evening, gentlemen. I'd be interested to hear about the players you played with who you think were most underrated. The kind of players who the managers and the players on the same team as them appreciate maybe more than the fans do. Were there any that fall into that category at Brighton?
For me, definitely. There was a few players that I touched on earlier about Liam Bridcut, who was a really, really important player for us at the time, who I think was a wee bit underrated, but one that stands out, and I'm sure everyone on this will agree, is Ashley Barnes.
I was going to say the same one.
So I think Ashley Barnes, he didn't have a great relationship with the fans for whatever reason. Maybe he didn't engage enough. I mean, I think I was guilty of that myself, that I didn't engage enough with the supporters when I was playing. And Barnsley was the same. He didn't really engage a lot with the fans, but what he gave for the team was amazing. And you know, as a player playing at the time when we sold Barnsley, I couldn't believe it. And you know, he's went on to do great things, and he's an absolute handful. He's an animal, and he's somebody that I've always kept in touch with as well. So he was a fantastic young player, and I think he was massively underrated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same player, and I think he's a striker, and he was playing a lot of times as a left of the three up top, and he was making the effort to, to do the right things, to take the right decisions. And it was I think it was amazing, not just as a player, as a teammate, he was outstanding, always helping everyone. And it was seriously, I think it's the most underrated player that we had here. Yeah.
I think also, Bruno touched on it earlier on, is like when the supporters are watching the game, sometimes you don't know what's been put into the game for the manager and what's been asked of you. And Barnsley was somebody that always done a job for the team. And it might not be pretty, or he might not have scored as many goals as others, but what he did for the team, we really appreciated. But
so unselfish.
Unselfish, aye.
Yeah, that's really interesting. The kind of guy you don't see how good he is till he's not there, do you?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think everybody will agree that that's the case now.
I've got a question for Gordon, please, if I may. Gordon, I'd like to ask you about your experience with the Scottish national side, because I was so pleased when you got your call up, because it looked to me as though you really, really wanted it.
Yeah.
And I think that you were the oldest player to make their debut for Scotland for 50 years or something.
Yeah.
Was that the case? And how was your time with those? I don't know what you got, about 12 caps or something.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, like, when I came down to England originally, when I signed for Doncaster, I sort of had given up on the opportunity to play for Scotland, just because I'd moved from Scotland to England, from the Premier League in Scotland down to League One with Doncaster. And it was sad to give up on. That's my childhood dream, was to play for my national team. So it was sad to sort of give up on that. But gradually over time, when I came to Brighton, obviously we got promoted to the Championship, and we had a really good base where we were getting to the playoffs, and we're close to getting promotion a few times. And I was playing well, and I was a bit older. I think I made my debut when I was 33, but I was still quite fit, and I was hungry. The thing is, like, I was dedicated to my profession, and I was hungry for it. So when I got the opportunity to go there, it was kind of like, listen, come in. We know you're a wee bit older, but come and see what you think, and see how we think. And after my first training session, the manager was really happy with me, and he says, right, we want you to be coming back, and we're going to use you because we want to try and pass the ball. So I was in a position where, fortunately for me, Scotland had went and took a different approach, where they weren't just happy to kick the ball long and head it 50 yards, which I didn't do. And they wanted to pass the ball, which I did do. And thankfully for me, I was playing in a team that passed the ball, and I was fortunate enough to be able to use my experiences with Brighton to go and play with Scotland. But I must say, it's the biggest achievement that I achieved in my career, was playing for Scotland, and I had some fantastic memories playing for Scotland, and it was a massive honour for me.
Brilliant, lovely. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for both of you for being such fantastic role models. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Okay. There's a few written in questions. I think some of them have already been asked. So they've already been asked. I won't re-ask them for a second time. The first one I can see from Leo is to you, Bruno. And it's about what your feelings were when you moved here into a new country. And are you surprised that you've taken it so well, the transition?
I mean, it was, as I said before, it wasn't easy. I moved here with my wife, a 4-year-old boy, and a 1-month-old daughter. In a small room in a hotel for a month. I mean, it was and eating chicken every single night, because it was the only thing that we understood in the menu. That was it was an interesting times, to be honest. But everyone was so nice, and we adapt ourselves like really good to the city and to the people. It wasn't, it wasn't it was a challenge, but I think at the end of the day, our attitude, it was always good. Gigi can say like I was always trying, learning and listening and trying to speak a little bit and every day just trying to get better. But as I said, it was an amazing experience. I'm so proud and I'm so happy to have taken that decision to move to England.
Do your kids have Spanish accents, or have they lost them?
Yes. No, they've got a Spanish accent. My little one, Adriana, she mixed quite a lot, to be honest. She speaks half. When he speaks to us, it's just like half because she is basically English, but she speaks perfect Spanish. But she mixed quite a lot. It's actually quite funny.
Okay, there was a question from Nigel. A lot of former Albion players, retired players, have come back to the club to take coaching roles, scouting roles. What makes it different from other clubs that you've been to in your career, so that you actually wanted to come back to Brighton? So, what is the draw of former players coming back to Brighton?
I think I'll speak for myself, because obviously Bruno never left. He just sort of moved within the club. The spell that I had at the club, the momentum that we felt as a team and all that, it was an amazing experience. As I say, I loved living in the city and sort of being part of it. But when my time was up at the club, I always sort of said to myself, I'm going to go, and I'm just going to. The reason that I was here was for football. As I said, I wasn't massively into social media, where I had loads of people telling me, I was either good, bad, or indifferent. So I was quite happy just to sort of, right, that's me. My time here's done. I wanted to go, because if I still stayed here and I seen the stadium every day, or the training ground, or the lads, I would feel, I would have probably felt that I was really disappointed not still to be part of it. So when I did leave, you don't really appreciate, we spoke about Barnsley a minute ago, sometimes you don't really appreciate what you've got until you go. And, I had a massive regret that I didn't manage to stay at the club to get to the Premiership. But, the way the club treated me when I was here, I had a good relationship with the chairman and the Paul Barber at the time, who was the chief exec. And when I came back to do the radio, they sort of asked me if there was something that I could do for the club, because they want, it would be good to have me around or have my experiences. And the only thing I could do from Manchester was the sort of scouting, and I sort of tried it, and I've really enjoyed it. So I think the club like having ex-players there, because we know the club inside out, and but also it's great for us because again, we know the club, and we know the staff, and we know what it means to everybody. And it's great to give back some of our knowledge that we've gained over the 20 odd years playing career.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Gordon. The next question, pretty quick on this. Only league in Europe currently playing is the Bundesliga. So do either of you have a German team that you follow? And are you watching the Bundesliga at the moment?
Yeah, of course we're watching. I think it's the only football on, and I watch a little bit, and I don't support any German teams, to be honest.
I've been watching because I help with the loan players as well now. So we've got 2 players on loan at St. Pauli in Germany. So they had a game on Sunday. So I watched their game. So that's my German team, just because the 2 lads are on loan for the club. So I've got a vested interest.
Okay. And the last question on the chat is actually just to you, Gordon. And did it annoy you when English-born players went and played for Scotland?
No, not at all, actually. I think nowadays it's quite common that, you know, players that potentially have got a grandparent or, you know, some sort of blood relative with a different country, that they can maximise their sort of value by going playing international football. So it didn't really annoy me. I suppose for me, I didn't really think much about it until, you know, I thought about it when I was younger, when I was trying to get in the squad. But when that time had passed and I sort of gave up on it, I didn't really think much about it. I just wanted us to do as well as possible. And if it meant having English players playing for Scotland, then albeit. But I do think the players that I played with that were born in England and had English accents and whatnot, if you ask any of them, they felt Scottish. Whether that was a front or not, I can't tell you. But you know, they said, you know, I feel Scottish and I want to play for Scotland and all that. So whether it was a front or not, I don't know. But it was, they were definitely proud to put the jersey on.
There was one extra part on that question, actually, from someone else asking what you think Scotland need to do in order to qualify for a major tournament again. Apart from producing decent left backs, was put in brackets.
Hi. I think, I mean, it's really difficult to sort of put your finger on something like that. It's like, you know, I don't know why English young players are so developed before Scottish players or Welsh players. You know, it's really difficult to put your finger on it. And, you know, we've looked to, I think as a country, we've looked at different ways of sort of bringing the young players up. We actually got a Dutch person in at one point to try and, you know, change the way that the young players were developed at a young age, the way they handled the ball and all that. But, you know, it's sometimes culture just doesn't allow that much change. And I think for Scotland, we've got a few good young players coming through that are playing Premier League now, but we've not got enough of them to build a really good squad to go and compete. And, you know, we've got loads of heart and desire and we give 110%, but, you know, when you play at the top level, you need more than that. And I think the one position that I think we're really lacking in now is a striker. We've not got a striker that's going to score the goals when we get the opportunities in front of goal, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully they'll just keep making those tournaments bigger and bigger, and then eventually just get in by default.
Well, I was going to say that. I mean, see now, I think it's harder not to qualify for the Euros than to qualify. So.
You get about 9 chances. You've got no excuse anymore. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Obviously, from our point of view, it's wonderful having you back at the club for many reasons. For though, I'm going to allow you to shoot off and enjoy the rest of your evening. For the fans listening in, if you just bear with us for another couple of minutes, we've got a few little things to tell you about that are coming up. But
thank you.
Thank you very much, gents.
Thank you. Bye-bye.